Hey everyone, Irene Lyon here. Welcome to this channel and to this entire world of healing trauma, nervous system health, and all things neuroplasticity. I wanted to do a video today that breaks down some of the key themes, the things, the traits, the behaviors that I've seen my students do and implement that has given them success. And by success, I mean success for them. So this is going to be in some ways an algorithm, if you will, to some of the things that over the years I've seen just help a person really get into this work and make it work for them. And I have a list of 7 things, and these are by no means in order of importance with the exception of the first one. And this is in context to people doing my programs. It could be folks who are doing one-on-one work. And it could also be those of you that are diving into my free resources and learning via my ebooks and my videos here, but also some of the audio samplers that I have on my site. So this can be for anything, and really just what it takes to really get this stuff embedded, not just into our behaviors, but into our body, into our nervous system, and how we connect with the environment. So the first one is start immediately. Start immediately. What that means is when you come across this work, or I'm going to start and say this a different way. Sometimes when people come across this work and it resonates and they know I have to do this, there is something that stops them that says, I'll do this when I have more time, or I'll do this when I have more money, or I'll do this when I have less people in my house, etc., etc. Now, of course, there might be a circumstance that is actually true and accurate, like you're living in a war-torn zone and there are bombs and crazy stuff going on around you, and you literally do not have the time, the capacity, or the general environmental safety to go into this kind of healing stuff. Then I get it. But I have worked with many folks, and I've heard many students of mine say they're living in a toxic household, even an abusive household, and they find ways to do little bits. The key is that they start. Okay, so I'll just leave that one for you guys to feel into. Is there something in your system that is saying, I'll do this in the new year? And even my SBSM students, my Smart Body, Smart Mind students, if you're here listening to this and you're saying to me right now, or you're in your mind, I'm going to wait till the next course starts next year and I'll restart the program with everyone. Why? You have access to the content now. Go into the content, do some practice, just do a little bit. There's no reason to wait. Okay, so that's the first one. Second one, this is a big one. Folks who do really well and succeed, they no longer identify as a victim. I've talked about this in the past. My teachers have talked about this a lot. This is like one of the big ones. I guess they're all big, but yes, we want to agree and acknowledge that we were maybe victimized. We were victim of certain things, adversity, abuse, crappy situations, life experience, whatever it might be, bad luck. That happened. It's true. It's real. We acknowledge that it happened, but then we move forward. We do not dwell and stop our healing because we are in this victim identification mode. There's nothing wrong with working with maybe the abyss that's pulling you in, that makes you want to feel sorry for yourself, and all the things that might be occurring that just seem not fair, bad luck, whatever it might be. It's okay to sense those and know that they're coming in, but to not let it engulf you to the point where you're just not moving forward. And to go back to number one, starting immediately. One of my mentors and the work I've studied, Peter Levine's work, somatic experiencing. I have sat in many trainings with him where he does, we call them demonstrations, with usually someone from the public that he works with. And some of the stories that I have heard are just horrendous and horrific. And he will often say with pretty much every single person that he would see, because they've made it that far and they're there, they're going to be fine. Yes, they're going to have to do some work. Yes, they might not run a marathon, but they're going to be okay. And the reason why, and he'll say this, is they do not identify as a victim anymore. All right, I'll leave you with that one. Number 3, there is a belief deeply that you deserve to heal. This goes really nicely in with the topics of shame, specifically toxic shame. I've done many resources on that. I'll post those below, so check those out if that's a new topic to you. The difference between toxic shame and healthy shame. If we were brought up in an environment that was just verbally abusive, emotionally abusive, and of course physical and sexual are in that as well. But I have found that when there's a lot of emotional and verbal abuse, kind of the things like saying to a child, you're never good at anything, you're lazy, you're stupid, you just don't get it, look at your sister, they're so much better than you, blah, 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 all that terrible talk that a lot of kids get, that embeds into the system, and it makes a human start to think that they don't deserve goodness. And that crappy feeling of just being hit either literally or energetically or metaphorically over and over again, it makes a person start to believe that they don't deserve goodness. And so this kind of ties in with that victim identification piece, but there needs to be this understanding and this visceral working towards foundation building, capacity building that says, I deserve this. And to the point where you are feeling that in your cells with full conviction. All right, next one. We create safety. So these, again, talking about students of mine that do well in their healing process and healing journey, they create safety to the best of their ability. What I mean by that is, as I mentioned a little while ago, some folks will do this work even though they're still in a toxic environment. But of course, if you're living with, say, someone who's abusive, and speaking up to them or setting a boundary might mean that you might get into more trouble and be harmed more, then you don't want to set boundaries with those, let's say, abusive folks. But you might lock yourself in the bathroom, or when you're out for a walk, or when you're in your car, or wherever it might be where those toxic, abusive people aren't there, you might, in those moments, do some of the work. Maybe that's when you listen to one of the videos that I have. Maybe that's when you do an exercise that you've learned from me. So again, these folks will create safety to the best of their ability, given the situation they're in. We don't want to ever make a situation worse. And so these individuals will seek out little tiny ways to do the work. Even if it's not perfect, they're doing something. And that kind of funnels back to that start immediately piece. All right. 5. Focusing on all aspects of health. All aspects of health. Now, if you've gotten to this work with me, it's very possible that you've tried nutrition and fitness and therapy and energy work and shamanic work and spiritual work and mindfulness work and all those works, and they're all great. But I have found, and many of my students will back me up on this, that if we don't have the nervous system piece on board, the others are on poor foundation, but we still have to have all of it in there. And so along with the nervous system work, let's just say someone starts to do this work through me or through a colleague of mine or in private practice sessions with someone, we still want to keep up with getting fresh air, getting out into nature, eating foods that are good for us, getting activity into our bodies, using our creative juices when we can, doing work that is meaningful to us, connecting with friends, family, support groups, right? So humans are we're a nervous system, but we also need these other things. So again, those that keep doing the practices that maybe didn't work before in little bits and spurts, again, it's just contributing to this holistic picture of health. And it doesn't mean that, you know, you have to be gung-ho on all these elements, but you do a little bit here, you do a little bit there, and you move forward. A little while ago, I did a video on my health regimen. I'll post it again below. Kind of 20 years in the making, and I'm still learning about things that are important for health, things that I didn't know about. And so it just goes to show there's this constant, I believe there can be this constant learning process to just keep adding more and more and more to your bucket, essentially, of healing and health practices. 6, so applying and integrating the work pretty much immediately. Now, for some folks, there is this natural capacity to, say, learn something like orienting, which is one of the key things that I teach. And if you don't know what orienting is, I'll post some links below so that you can learn about that. But orienting in a nutshell is reconnecting to the here and now, reconnecting to, there's a tree out there, there's a book there, these are my hands, there's a glass of water, and really landing in the present moment. Now, I teach that through my exercises, and when you start to really infuse this into the body and into the nervous system, what you might start to feel, or what some people might start to do spontaneously, is they wake up and they feel the body, they see the window, they notice their room. When they walk out the door to do whatever they do first thing in the morning, they hear the birds, they look at the sky. As you're driving, orienting and seeing what's around you, which is a very important safety tactic for driving in the world. So sometimes there's this natural integration without needing to be prompted, and that is great. Now, let's just say this isn't happening naturally for you. You can only find yourself orienting when you are being guided by my lessons. Now, that's fine, but what I've found with those who succeed in this work is they find ways to prompt themselves, whether it's post-it notes, whether it's a little alarm on their phone or whatever it might be, whether it's an email, whether it's a journal, so that they are actively putting in integration behaviors so that they can bring something like orienting into their daily life without having to listen to me teach you that. It's kind of like learning a new language. When you're learning a new language, you're learning the ABCs, the 1, 2, 3s. You're having to really think about it. You're really having to work at it. And then as you practice more, it starts to become a little bit more natural. But depending, of course, on how difficult the language is, your history with languages, it might not just click as naturally, but then you put in prompts, right? I've heard people with languages, when they're learning, they'll put post-it notes like on the fridge, on the table, on the book, on things all around their house. So when they see it, it prompts them to say that word in a different language. So that would be an example of how it's okay to prompt ourselves to integrate. And then as you see those post-it notes, oh, right, orient, or oh, right, that's the name of that thing in French or whatever, then it starts to infuse and it starts to wire into the nervous system. So integration and application is really important as soon as possible. How you do that is up to you. It might happen organically, or you might need to prompt yourself. Final one, number 7. When there's a setback, the person isn't set back. I saw this all the time when I was in fitness, let's just say. So for example, I used to work in fitness and exercise science in my 20s and early 30s. And if someone had a really strict routine to exercise, let's just say 3 times a week, and then one week they got sick and they couldn't, then they're like, well, I screwed that up, can't do it. Or they got too busy and they didn't get to their 3 exercise sessions that week. And maybe they know that they can do 1, but they figure I can't get 3 in, so I'm just not going to do anything. That mentality will screw us in this work as well. So nothing is ever perfect. we make mistakes, we fall off the wagon, we forget to orient and ground when there's a stressful thing happening. It's going to occur. It happens to me from time to time. Less so now than it was, 20 years ago, because we're human, right? Our brains, our environment, our histories will prompt us to lose track of certain things. But the more we can see, I just freaked out and didn't ground, I didn't orient when I should have. If we use that higher brain to say, that's okay, this is just going to happen, I'm going to go back and try this lesson again. Or now I'm going to try, if I use the orienting example, okay, I didn't orient yesterday, I completely forgot, I'm going to do that right now. So again, folks who do well and succeed, they acknowledge that mistakes are going to be made. They acknowledge that they're not going to be perfect. And that in itself is healing for many old traumas. Remember the example I gave way back when I was talking about believing that you deserve it? And if you're brought up in a household where maybe your grades weren't as good as your parents wanted them to be. Maybe you weren't the scholar, you were the creative, right? And so there was this history of being just ridiculed and punished, for example, for not getting it right. You see where I'm going here? If that was a history, if that was a historical piece for you, as an adult, when you try to do new things, even though it has nothing to do academically, it will infuse how you behave around failure. And so if failure was something that was, you were punished, if you failed a test or you didn't get an A+ and you were punished, well, then you're just not going to do that thing because you don't want to fail, because failure means punishment and feeling terrible about yourself and feeling that toxic shame. So I give you that example just to analyze, could that be a reason why when you have a setback, when you make a mistake, you just say, I don't want to do it anymore. It's too painful to feel the defeat and the mistake. And I'm here to say, those that can really work with this and use that mistake as fuel and juice to learn about their physiology and what's happening inside, I've seen this, they move forward, they progress, they succeed. All right, 7 things, again, just to review. Number 1, start immediately. Number 2, no longer identifying as a victim. Number 3, believing that you deserve to heal. Number 4, creating greater safety to the best of your ability so that you can do the work. Number 5, focusing on all parts of health, not just the nervous system, not nutrition, etc., all of it. 6, integrating and applying the learning immediately, and either that is done organically or you prompt yourself to. And then number 7, not letting the little setbacks set you back. I hope this video has been useful. I hope for those of you that are students of mine, maybe you see pieces of yourself here and maybe you're like, ooh, I could work on that a bit better. Write these out, make some notes. If you're about to start my work, have this as a template, as an algorithm for being successful for this work. I've worked with folks all around the world, thousands of folks in my programs, in my groups. These are some of the key themes that come up for those who do well and really, really find success in rewiring and regulating their nervous systems and all the systems that connects to. Thank you for being here, you guys, and we will see you next time.